Hi, I'm Reb Myron. I'm a minister through Pathways of Light, and I've been a Course in Miracles student for 40 years now. I'm going through the lessons this year, asking Jesus for clarification and then writing whatever comes into my mind. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. So let's get started. I'm on lesson 52. Today's review covers these ideas. Paragraph 1. I am upset because I see what is not there. Reality is never frightening. It is impossible that it could upset me. Reality brings only perfect peace. When I'm upset, it is always because I have replaced reality with illusions I made up. The illusions are upsetting because I have given them reality and thus regard reality as an illusion. Nothing in God's creation is affected in any way by this confusion of mine. I'm always upset by nothing. Illusions are not real. So when I'm involved in illusions, I'm upset over nothing. I really get that. And yet sometimes I am involved in the illusion and I'm upset anyway. This is when I'm in confusion and need to ask for another way to see the situation. The truth is, I don't look at the world and decide it is upsetting. I look in my mind and then, looking outward, see my mind reflected there as the world. So the source of my distress is always going to be in my mind, not in the world. This is really lucky because while I can't change the world, I can change my mind. A while back, both my girls and their husbands got COVID. My first reaction was one of fear. Where did that fear come from? It came from all the things I had read about COVID. That was fear based on past learning. I was afraid because it could get bad. That is fear based on projections into the future. At the moment I heard about it, the only thing happening is that they had COVID and were symptomatic. I was upset because I saw something that was not there. As I realized what had happened, I shifted my mind into the present and there was no fear. There's another way to see this, a broader understanding of it. So let's revisit the metaphysics of the Course from lesson 132. There is no world. This is a central thought the Course attempts to teach. And from chapter 18, since there is no world outside our minds, there are no beliefs, there are no bodies. And it says, at no single instant does a body exist at all. And since a body does not exist, I cannot be in the body. And it says in chapter 25, the Christ in you inhabits not a body, yet he is in you. And thus it must be that you are not within a body. So if there is no world, there's nothing to be upset about. If there are no bodies and no one is in a body, COVID isn't happening to these beautiful souls I love so much. They are perfectly safe in the mind of God, as am I. I may not always land in this truth right away, but I know it is truth, and so I always get there. It is not my actual experience, not exactly, and not fully, but my mind is open to it. Each time I revisit this truth in the midst of an upset, it becomes truer for me. One day, it will be my full experience. So paragraph 2, I see only the past. As I look about, I condemn the world I look upon. I call this seeing. I hold the past against everyone and everything, making them my enemies. When I have forgiven myself and remembered who I am, I will bless everyone and everything I see. There will be no past and therefore no enemies. And I will look with love on all I failed to see before. So I asked myself, do I really condemn the world and hold the past against everyone and everything? Well, not so much anymore, but I used to. I remember the first time I honestly looked at my closest loved ones with this question in mind. I discovered the shocking truth. I really did make enemies of even those I loved. Not all the time, but sometimes. I'm looking honestly into my mind right now to see if I'm still holding the past against anyone. Oh, yes. I had to go way back to find this one. It was an in-law who questioned my parenting decisions. I was very unsure of myself as a parent in those days, and this didn't help. My youngest child is 37 and my oldest is 53. Do you think I've held on to that grievance long enough? I do too. I forgive the past and I let it go. I want a healed mind more than I want someone else to be guilty. My mind is clearer than it used to be. So this is because I've realized how important forgiveness is, and I don't hesitate to choose it. As I release the past and open my mind to the present, I'm so much happier. My mind is at peace, and I look with love on all that I failed to see before. So paragraph 3, my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. I see only my own thoughts, and my mind is preoccupied with the past. What then can I see as it is? Let me remember that I look on the past to prevent the present from dawning on my mind. Let me understand that I'm trying to use time against God. Let me learn to give the past away, realizing that in so doing, I'm giving up nothing. Beneath the grievance I had against my in-law was the real reason I was holding on to the past. I was trying to use time against God. It pays to recognize that deeply buried in my mind is a dark pit of guilt that I rejected God. This guilt rises to the top at times, and very quickly I project it onto someone else, or I might see my own lesser sin as a reason for the guilt. I give it a reason other than the fear that God is going to punish me for leaving him. I'm preoccupied with thoughts of the past, so I don't have to think of the present. God is in the present, and God will seem like the enemy as long as I fail to forgive. Each time I notice an ego thought, it is going to be from the past or fear of the future. The fear of the future is a past projected forward. The solution is to forgive the past and release it. In so doing, I'm actually giving up nothing, since the past doesn't really even exist. This is how I discovered that the separation never occurred, and God loves me. Paragraph 4, I see nothing as it is now. If I see nothing as it is now, it can truly be said that I see nothing. I can see only what is now. The choice is not whether to see the past or the present. The choice is merely whether to see or not. What I have chosen to see has caused me vision. Now I would choose again that I may see. So I don't actually see anything now. What I call seeing is just images I place before my eyes. These images prevent me from being aware of what is really there. I remember that I don't actually have a body, and without a body, there are no eyes. The only thing happening is that I'm experiencing an illusion. But even in this state of imagined life, I can learn to see. As I forgive these images, I lose interest in them, and vision becomes possible. I do this to some degree now. Yes, I'm still aware of the images my eyes show me, but I'm also aware that they are not real. It's like being somewhat detached from the world. When I watch a really good movie, I become involved with the story. I might feel excitement and feel the adrenaline course through me, just as if I would if something exciting happened in my life. Movies can elicit very real feelings, but while we watch a movie, we are aware that nothing is happening to us. We know it is happening on the screen. And this is what it feels like to me now. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. I might not feel anger or fear or even guilt, or maybe I will. Whether I do or not, I know that it is like the movie, not real. This change has occurred because I've chosen again and again to release the past. With this detachment, I perceive the world differently than I used to. Paragraph 5, my thoughts do not mean anything. I have no private thoughts, yet it is only private thoughts of which I'm aware. What can these thoughts mean? They do not exist, and so they mean nothing. Yet my mind is part of creation and part of its creator. Would I not rather join the thinking of the universe than to obscure all that is really mine with my pitiful and meaningless private thoughts? I love that little section right there from sentence 6. Yeah, my mind is part of creation and part of its creator. Wow, isn't that something? Would I not rather join the thinking of the universe than to obscure all that is really mine with pitiful and meaningless private thoughts? That's very encouraging to work on that. I think of private thoughts as ego thoughts. They are directed toward the personal. For instance, if my friend fails to show up for a planned outing, I might respond in one of two ways. If I think that she should have shown or that her not showing up spoiled my plans, this is a private thought. It references the incident back to a personal self. That is, it is my thought, not anyone else's, because this is about me and not anyone else. This is what makes it meaningless. It is unshared. The other way I could experience this change of plans is by deciding to do something else instead or do nothing. This is generally what happens now. If the plan works, great. If it doesn't, great. The greatest value of this change of mind is that my mind is not so crowded with private thoughts. This has left room for my real thoughts. I don't know how this seems to anyone else, but for me, it isn't word thoughts. I simply feel peace and joy that's not interrupted by meaningless thoughts. Again, this is not true every time, but what does happen every time is that the reaction is brief. I was going to go shopping one day when my daughter called to say she was on her way over. My first reaction was an ego thought of having my plans interrupted, a kind of disappointment. But that faded very quickly because I haven't encouraged that kind of thinking. I didn't make it go away. I just wasn't interested in it. Thus, my peace was interrupted only briefly. I protect this learning by being vigilant for private thoughts and choosing again. I love these lessons. Thank you so much for sharing this lesson with me. And if you found it helpful, then please like it. And if you haven't yet, maybe you'd like to subscribe. And I'll be back tomorrow with another lesson.